quick disclaimer, me and Aaron did not notice that at the beginning of the film, it in fact does say it takes place in October of 1990. And please disregard every time we say that the film doesn't tell us what year it takes place in, and how us finding out towards the end of the film just comes off as lazy and tacked on. Because with us finding out it was always there, it means that this was always lazy and tacked on. So yeah, our opinion still remains. But yeah, in fairness to the film, they did let us know from Jump Street. In any case, enjoy this episode of Q Rants. What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Q Rants. I'm Quaman Star G, and I'm here to rant one more again with the good bro Aaron right here on Moldiversity. These keys are angry. These some angry jingling keys to the Moldiverse we got today. And yeah, you can almost say this is a two-parter with me and Aaron. But however you want to quantify it, today we are talking about the 2021 HBO Max film / theatrical release, The Little Things, starring Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. And y'all, when I first saw this movie, early this year, is one of the first examples of HBO Max's dual release. I was like, oh, this is an interesting film. Denzel, Rami, Jared, I can't wait to watch it. And boy, oh boy, should I have waited to watch it. And by waited, I mean not have watched it, because quite frankly, it is not even boring. It doesn't even have the temerity to be all that boring. It is a poor crime noir that just doesn't make any fucking sense. It is not. I now see exactly why Jason Kilar reportedly told Denzel that this movie wasn't worth it to watch in the theaters, which had Denzel hot for a minute. I can now see why that rumor had some weight to it, because this was not it. Aaron, go ahead before we launch. You can let these folks know.
I've never seen a movie. I don't know about you, but I think for 2.5 hours, it was like just seeing a big L on the screen. I just very inventive of them. I don't get it. I don't get it. I legitimately don't get it, and I don't think I want to, because, like you said, I get why Jason told Denzel what he said allegedly. I get why nobody wants to acknowledge this movie. It was the embarrassment that has.
Man, the embarrassment that had, the lackluster that it purported, the disappointment that it just exuded,
the tragedy, the ashiness of this movie. I've never seen a movie so ashy before. Unapologetically ashy from start to finish.
And it don't even got the temerity to be a Chappelle Show sketch to justify the levels of ashiness it exuded. So basically, the movie is this. It's about a cop, a beat cop, mind you, who is roped into going to a new county to drop off some evidence. And he used to be a big time detective in the area. And he gets roped into following this missing persons case. And he's more or less working it independently with this hot shot up and coming detective who reminds himself of him. And through a lot of twists and turns, they go head to head, kind of, with Jared Leto's character in trying to figure out the murder, and it's just a lot of fucking nonsense. Just to get it out the way now, this movie doesn't make any goddamn sense, like, at all. Like, from a narrative perspective, there is never a question that is presented that is resolved. Not one. And I know crime noirs, sometimes they leave you with an unsatisfying conclusion. Chinatown is the most famous example of it. But not this. Like, With Chinatown, you got the reasonings, you got the character motivations, you just didn't see the proper individuals face justice, depending on your point of view. That was Chinatown. But and I know a lot of other things, you know, Seven, of course, you know, Brad Pitt. What's in the box? What's in the fucking box? You know, in that whole scenario as well. You get that, but you understand their motivations. It's all a complete narrative thread that attaches itself from the beginning to the end, with the middle part being so delectable and having you on the edge of your seats. You get it. You get the motivations of the individuals. This movie was just a hodgepodge of all of those ideas, but in the hands of someone too incompetent to really execute them. And it's none more apparent than, and as I say, it's a spoiler, but really who cares, because I wouldn't recommend anyone watching this film unless you just really want to have a bad time. The narrative standpoint that this film takes place in the 90s, in a 90s setting, no specific time, but the movie doesn't really hammer that home until about the end of the second act, in beginning of the third act. So for about an act and a half, basically 2 acts, you're wondering why certain characters are making these mistakes, because from the way it is shot and lit, and even down to some of the set pieces, it gives you a modern setting. There's no, Los Angeles or California, 1993 or anything like that. They just jump right into the movie, and everything else about it can just be written off as, this is, not everyone has to have a stylish 2021 car to drive in. You see the movie starts on the highway with this young woman driving cross country and what looks to be her parents' car, and you're not thinking twice if that's a modern car or anything like that, because how many people nowadays drive cars 10, 15 years, 20 years back, especially if it's a family heirloom vehicle. And she gets chased by this man who was trying to abduct and kill her. And, she stops for some reason. And again, this goes back to the poor editing and the poor visual storytelling, is that the way the scene is shot, you don't see that she's running out of gas, if at all. It's just her in the car and she's being followed and tailed and all of that. And then, when she realizes that the guy's not stopping, it literally cuts to her pulling over and running into the gas station looking for help. So
at night.
So
it's closed.
But it's closed. So you're watching the film and no visual indication. It's not like it cuts to the dash and this E and low on gas. No, all of that stuff is just treated like regular scenery. So there's no sense that she's going to have to run out of gas. So you're watching and you're just going, either he's going to ram into her and cause her vehicle to be, messed up and she has to pull over, or they're going to cut to the dash and see the E sign or something. No, it just cuts to her pulling over and getting out of her car and putting herself at risk.
But you see, Q, you're expecting the little things to pop up, and we're not getting that in this movie.
Right. A movie called The Little Things doesn't focus on the little things. It doesn't put any emphasis on the little things as a viewer. If it's just the characters not focusing on the little things, that's one thing. But when you're not giving the viewers the opportunity to focus on that, when you're treating everything as this linear concept and not giving any room to, because we unfortunately made the decision to rewatch it, and none of that stuff was apparent a second time. It's not like, oh God, I need to rewatch it because they're gonna make it obvious. No, a lot of that shit still is the same nonsensical bullshit. So she gets out the car, she goes to the gas station, she tries to find help. Obviously, she wasn't going to find help because when she pulled over, she saw the bitch was closed completely and nobody lives in a gas station. So it's not like somebody was going to fucking be there, and there was literally no other buildings for miles and miles. And then the movie doesn't even have the temerity for the woman to get caught. She gets a fucking way. She gets away scot-free. And you would think, oh, this is going to play into the plot later on. You would think that is the impetus before the plot even beginning. It does not, because the next thing we do, we establish Denzel Washington's character. He is coming into his police department, where he works, and he has evidence that he's trying to get sent to the big city so it can be processed, because it's a different county. It's evidence related to a crime in a different county, and he's trepidations of going back because that's where he left. When he was disgraced, he made this very big mistake over there. So we find out he had to cover it up, and he was transferred to a smaller district where he became more or less a beat cop, and now he has to return.
A plot point from one of the Scream movies.
I think it was. I genuinely think it was. Deke is his name. Just Deke. No first or last, just Deke. I'm pretty sure Denzel thought that was hot because he got a character with one name. And Denzel is. So basically, he goes there. He's talking to all of his former colleagues. You can tell there's a lot of tension, and that's when he runs into Rami Malek's character, Detective Baxter, producing a press conference, because in one of the cutaway scenes that we see as he's on his way to the city to deliver this evidence, we see a scene of this woman being abducted, and as she's jogging. And again, as I've mentioned previously, this movie is set in the 90s, but this whole setup, the way they are dressed, to the look of the neighborhood, is very modern. You wouldn't suspect that this was set in the 1990s. So there are a lot of things you are immediately thinking about as it's happening, because if you're going to abduct somebody, we see these in real life too, they're going to be in down and out cars. They're not going to be in some recognizable car. They're going to be in something like a 1995 or a Vanners type thing. Like, unless you're in a like you're abducting somebody in a metropolitan area like downtown or something like that, you're going to be in a regular old car. So this woman is abducted. Her family comes to Rami Malek's character, Detective Baxter, and he makes that a priority. He does a press conference. Denzel Washington character big leagues him, and that's how their characters meet. That's how the characters get set on the same path together. And Rami's character, he finds out who he is, found out why he left the department, found out that there was a lot of similarities between him, and he wants to have him on the case, and more or less to feel him out and to see if he's as good as he says he is. Which, by the way, very fucking confusing, his motivations at the beginning, because it was the way the scenes were structured was that Detective Baxter was being very confrontational with Deke, but then almost immediately in the next scene, it was more so like trying to make a budding mentorship. There was no change in inflection at all.
Just why? So,
and
that I think that was the most.
I'm okay.
Confusing. That was the most confusing shit for me, because I'm like, if they have a rivalry set up, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to have this, good cop, bad cop. One goes by the rules and one is, off, on the left and stuff. But when you switch it up, I'm like, okay, so they're trying to be like Seven now. They're trying to be like all these other films, and it makes no sense. I think that's the crux of this entire film's issue, is that it's trying to be one thing and add all these stupid ass tropes that we've seen a billion times in these beat cop movies, and they think somehow it's gonna work. And I'm just like, did you just look at like maybe 10 films and just say, I like this, I like this, I like this, I like this, let's put that in there? Because I'm trying to see, I'm looking it up right now, but I really do think these are plot points from some of the Scream films. I'm just like, so we're stealing plot points from the 90s. If we're gonna do that, at least do something clever. Didn't even give us, we'll get in a twist later, but it didn't even give me a Fight Club level twist. I just, man, this writer.
And it's like, the detective work was fucking awful. Like dead ass. Like it's literally fucking awful. because it's like you have Denzel, he's trying to do his own independent investigation because it reminds him of like it reminds him of fucking the case that destroyed his career and his life and his marriage and all of that. But it's like none of it matters because there is no consistent lead up. You see Denzel having this wall of the victims that that this person perpetrated on and his own victims, and then you get this weird fucking sequence with the girls that was with the case he messed up and everything. And then just spoilers, comes to find out his biggest shame was that he was hunting down who could have been the same guy, and when he got to one of the victims, it's victim, and he shot her to death and whatnot, and he had it covered up like the guy killed her, and that's why he left. And then spoilers for the end, it's implicated that he was the guy, even though none of the shit makes sense in a timeline perspective. So it's like, why would you implicate that like he was the dude that was doing all of these killings, and yet it doesn't make sense from a timeline wise when you really start paying attention to the movie. And then it's like
trying to be like a much better 90s film, which is Silence of the Lambs. So now we have Scream, Silence of the Lambs, and Seven. Let's keep going. I like this.
Like it's like none of the shit makes sense. Like from the trailers, it obviously makes you think that, oh, there's gonna be a swerve and Denzel Washington is the actual killer and the bad guy. He's purposefully misleading Rami Malek's investigation to make him feel better, or to keep him off his trail. But then when you watch the film, there is no indication of that, other than you thinking that that's where the movie's gonna go. But when you're actually paying attention to the movie, there is nothing to it. It's just that, oh, Denzel's a shitty cop and that makes horrible decisions, and now him being with this guy and getting inside of his head and making him so gung-ho on solving it, he ends up making the same mistake. Because let me get you into the next point, and that's Jared Leto's entire character. Now, I don't say this as if Jared Leto acted badly. No, he actually was pretty entertaining in this role. He really was very enigmatic, very much, mysterious and all of that shit. But again, his character makes no fucking sense because he becomes the primary suspect of the two because he's a true crime follower. Which again, that's something very much 2000 now, 2010s now, because the advent of all of these true crime series, true crime podcasters, of course, you would think this takes place in modern day, because not saying this didn't exist, but it wasn't prevalent from my understanding as it is now. So again, another modern concept that they try to implement in the past to throw you off from it being in the past, even though they try to use the past as an excuse for all of their shady plot holes. So they think of him as the primary suspect. They start following him. They start misleading him. They even bring him in to interrogate him on the charges that he did it, which is stupid as fuck, because then you basically ruin any chance of properly arresting him if he does do it, because he can just simply say that there's discrimination, which it absolutely is. And even worse, the worst part of this whole fucking movie, in my opinion, for me at least, was when the girl from the beginning of the film, who was chased down by the dude, she's actually in the police station, and Rami Malek's detective is supposed to talk to her to get to ID the witness, and they keep having it where it looks like she's gonna finger Jared Leto or say it was him and all of this stuff, and it never does. Nothing comes of it. We don't even get the satisfaction of her saying it offhand to another detective, like I know that guy. Or better yet, if that was the guy and she saw the photo and all of that stuff, then she would have said, that's the guy who followed me. That's what any person would do. They wouldn't just leave it there. And even then, it's like at the end of the movie, I'm gonna get to that. That point is a specific talking point in and of itself. Yeah. That was stupid as hell, because that was just a needless example of trying to raise the stakes when there was no stakes to be raised. Yeah, man. You I know you got a lot of thoughts about that.
I think this is gonna be my catchphrase when I'm on here. From a writer's standpoint, just with the way they position Detective Baxter and whatever Jared Leto's character was, like the way they positioned that whole thing. One, yeah, no, that's definitely discriminatory as hell, especially in the 90s if they were going to do that. Because, okay, let me put y'all on game for a second. Okay, if this is supposed to be in like the mid to late 90s, right after OJ's trial, right after whatever that dude's name who was eating those little boys, like, you can't just say, oh, this person is a villain, because those are two cases where it's all based off of, they tried to base it off of appearance, and that's not how that works. And so it's like you're basically using some old 70s movie bullshit about, well, he looks evil, because, you know, the way they did Jared, you know, they had him put a little weight on, they had the long greasy hair, he had the sunken in eyes, it was basically like what he would look like before he turned to the Joker. You know, but it's like, it was that scene where Denzel walked in where he was working, and they he saw Jared turn around, and I'm just like, so what are we setting up here? Do they know each other? Do they not know each other? Like, all of these questions.
Man.
Like, essentially the whole movie, once again, the little things were supposed to get folks caught, and it didn't. It played us. The little things played us. But it's like all these, it's like adding on something every single time. And you don't, this was basically written as something where it's like, here's an idea, here's another idea, and they keep piling on, and there's no payoff. And then you can tell instantly the moment, we'll get to that because it's around the ending, you can tell the moment where the writers probably were just like, ooh, we don't know how to write ourselves out of this corner. Just throw something at the wall, see what sticks. Because there is nothing indicates up to that point, even with all the with the advertisement and the way Denzel kind of portrayed Deke here and there, nothing indicated that he was going to be the villain.
It was written by the director, John Lee Hancock.
There you go. And he also did Blindside, and, you know, that was a big fake story. So there you go. I just, you know, it's just like between Denzel's character Deke being a complete, like, standoffish asshole with a heart of gold, but there was this dark mystique, and he was like Hannibal Lecter almost. And then you had Detective Baxter, played by Rami, and it was like he was this, you know, well-to-do Christian by the book, you know, cop, but at the same time he was obviously gonna go off the deep end because he felt some type of way about Jared's character. Like, nothing makes sense. The coroner plot point, can we just talk about that shit for a second? Like, what was the point of that? What was the point in building? I thought that was his ex-wife. I swear it was. And like, even then I was like, well, if he's divorced, what if that's the woman he cheated on his wife with, or something, you know, something.
What's the smoking gun? What is the quote unquote reason why he's so down and out, and what made him leave? And no, it was none of it. Was the little things. It was the little things. It's like, just to tie it all up in a bow, the worst thing about it, in my opinion, is the hiding of it being set in the past, because you can tell, as Aaron said, this was written, well, we know it was written by a person who doesn't know how to write, and you can tell that was one of the three main factors of hiding the plot holes, because every single thing that happened in this film could be solved with modern day technology. Or modern day sensibilities.
Literally.
She someone is being followed on the high interstate. Have a cell phone, can call. But even then, a smart writer can say, "Oh, she's so far out, she doesn't have a signal. Oh, her battery is dead. Oh, her car is running out of gas."
Like, all they had to do was just have it show that it was on E, and she was like, "Let me pull into the gas station or something. But I think the real problem for me though was that if she had just ran left when she got out the car, there was the whole city down that hill.
Man.
So it's like it was a catch-22.
And another thing is that with Deke, with Deke's background and everything, again, easy to find out all of that stuff. It's easy to find out any of that stuff, and that's what pisses me off is how Sparma, that's Jared Leto's character's name, and all of that stuff. All of that was easy to find out and whatnot, and you know the lengths and all of that stuff. And it's just like, okay, so why are you still pursuing it when you know this guy doesn't really have anything, especially by the 90s standards of information? Like, it's pretty cut and dry, and it's like, and it's like when you're dealing with the past, but you're not being open about it. It's confusing. It's like, okay, why aren't these? Oh, it's set in the 90s, but that's just an excuse. That like, cause not like it's just an excuse to hide all of these plot holes. I'm sorry, and it still don't make sense. Like when Sparma gets to drop on Rami Malek's character and then says, "Oh, I know where she's at." Oh, he can't do anything. He can't, call or warn Deke because he doesn't have a cell phone. That can't be a thing. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to be at the bar and have them pull up, which I've never fucking heard or seen before in my life, where they call the bar, where he can request a phone from the bar and call somebody, which now that I'm saying that out loud, I take that back because that's obviously to call for a designated driver and a bar. So I'll give them that pass. Not to leave a message, a cryptic message for a detective. They just... Like, and it's like just to because it's like, again, we're now getting into the final part of the movie. So and I misspoke. This is the worst part. The final part of the movie is like just straight trash. So Jared Leto calls Rami on his payphone, which again is weird because that means he would have to call him from he called another payphone or a phone. He did all that bullshit.
How did he know the phone call was for him?
Exactly. And he goes to him, says, "I know where the girl you're looking for is. I know where she's at." And then it's this chase between Deke and getting to Baxter and Sparma, and it's framed like, oh, your partner has this dark secret, and this is what it is, and he's responsible. And so it's framed like we're finally going to get the revelation that Denzel's the killer because he's going to Denzel's spot. But then that quickly goes left field because you would think if Denzel knows where they're going, he's just going to follow them. But then he gets lost and then he can't follow them. So then that tells you, oh, then that means Sparma actually is the killer. Again, you would think that, but no, he just has Rami Malek's character, Baxter, dig holes for about a couple of hours, which you would think if you're a killer, you're going to have him dig the first hole and then kill him.
Right.
So then it just comes to the fact that Jared Leto was just trolling Baxter to get him to dig. And then before we can even figure out why he's doing it, Baxter snaps and kills him with the weakest fucking shovel hit I've ever fucking seen that wouldn't kill somebody in real life. I'm sorry. He didn't even swing that hard. It would have gave him a
90 shovel though, so it
had to be
heavier,
Yeah, you're right. It is the 90 shovel, the Escape from LA shovel, the goddamn Double Dragon shovel, the T2 shovel. But it's like that shit would have gave him a mild concussion at best. It wouldn't have immediately killed him. And then that's when Deke shows up, and then he's like, "Nah, we just got to bury him," and then just leave it to the authorities because all the while the LAPD or wherever they're being threatened with the feds coming in and taking over the case, and that would hurt the credibility of them and Baxter and whatnot. And so basically, before all of that, Deke went into Sparma's apartment to look for evidence, to look for this red beret, because that's what her family, the lady's family gave, told Baxter that was where she was wearing, and that's a item she liked to wear. So that was his focal point. That's the evidence that he needed to prove Sparma was the killer. So After all that shit is done, after they cover up the murder, after Denzel says that fucking line one more time, it's the little things, it's the little things that get you caught. It cuts to Baxter sitting poolside looking at his family, you know, being wistful about how that could have happened to one of his girls, his wife, or his two daughters or whatever. And then he gets a package, an anonymous package, and it's the red beret. And it's from Deke. And he's thinking that he knew it. He had the evidence. They could have nailed him. It is what it is. This monster is dead. He did the right thing. Then it cuts to Deke back at where he's at, burning a package of barrettes he bought from a store. So basically, he sent that to Baxter to make him feel good, to make him to alleviate him of the demons he had when he shot the girl all them years ago, or a couple of years ago. It's never explicitly stated how many years back it was when he made that mistake. And God, that shit was just so awful. It's just awful, awful, awful. Aaron, do you have any final points on all of this nonsense?
Words can't describe how disappointed I was. I'm actually speechless because once again, from a writer's standpoint, you have to think about the freaking audience, and I don't know who this movie was made for. I guess it was just something. No, you know what? This was made for people who just want to have something on in the background to make themselves look like they're into crime films when they're not really, because I think I literally called you right, or you called me right after
Man.
the movie, and I was like, "Did you see that bullshit ending with the cheery music with the dog?" And everybody was like, "Oh, nah, it's all good." But I'm just like, with the red beret, the boots, like just everything was pointing at. There was something bigger. I don't know if there's a extended cut. I don't care if it is. We're not trying to release the little things cut at all. We don't know. No, we don't need none of that shit. But like, there was a good movie set up like in the middle of it that it's like an idiot sandwich, you know. It's like there's really good meat, but the top and the bottom just, it ain't working. It literally isn't working. Like, you could have, like, all they had to do was just, when Detective Baxter was digging those holes, have Denzel show up and be like, boom, Denzel and Jared were working together. That's all you had to do.
Or have him kill Jared.
Yes.
Have him kill it.
It was big, big twist, but it's just they did it. And now they were trying to be, I don't know what the hell they were trying to do. Denzel did not have his King Kong and got shit on me moment in this movie. That's how I rate all Denzel films, and he didn't have that moment at all.
Pelican Bay, none of that. No Pelican Bay, no shoe program, none of that.
Man, was that his breath?
Not 12-hour lockdown.
Everything in that movie, everybody was out there rabbit ass mind. I understand if you need to check. It was COVID, I get it, but like, holy shit, this was bad. Got no reason being that bad.
Yeah, dude. Just looking at these, yeah, dude.
Why put it in the 90s?
Like, it doesn't make any sense. And why not be explicit that it's in the 90s? Like,
all it had to do was say, when at the very beginning, have some text, spring 1998, spring 1995.
It's like it hurt the film so much with just to add on to the bigger pain that this film was suffering from. It was just a mess. It was just an absolute mess, an absolute mess.
Them caught because they didn't use the little things to make a film good.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you expect from the guy who did Blindside, which was a complete fabrication of, everything?
Yes, that is big facts. And speaking of big facts, per the usual, This has been Multiversity, but this has been Q Rants as well. Big A, let them know where they can find you.
They know where to find. Well, if you look very hard, you know, the little things on my little name over here, you know, that's the handle. You can find me on all social media platforms. I promise I won't do any BS twists on you like this movie did. You know, I'm sure you can find me on Wednesday shows at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. You can find me on A&A, where we talk about a bunch of music with our wonderful co-host Avia Knighton. You can also find me being a total menace on Twitter.
Big facts. And you can find me almost everywhere Aaron said as well. And by almost, I mean just the one place. Well, the two places, Twitter at the same place, but right here, right here as well, at QuamonStarG. And you can also find me on Wednesday night shows, chopping it up. You can find me every weekend on Indie Gaming as well, playing it up with the folks. Find me on Into the Q Universe on Facebook Live every Sunday. And yeah, this has been another episode of Q Rants, y'all. Don't watch The Little Things. It sucks. It makes no sense. And it is a bad movie. In any case, we will see y'all later. Say peace.
Peace.